we don't pay you anything early because you get your big free agent deal. Well, now they're skimping out on free agent deals. So they're catching it at both ends. You don't get paid when you're a beast as a rookie because you're on the rookie deal. And now teams are getting smarter about free agency. So they have to come up with something to kind of figure out those mechanics there to where players are getting paid more fairly. Because I think they're still getting ripped off.
He's a legend.
So I was not planning on having this be a discussion today. That was not like the plan, right? The plan was to go live, talk about normal shenanigans, do the recap video, and then move on. But I started on this Kyler Murray thing, and then we kind of went down the rabbit hole, and you were, you have opinions because, baseball content creator.
Sure.
And I value your opinions because you're very smart about baseball. My view is money in is good.
Oh, for sure. And you're going to get more money. Like when he made that decision, it was like, well, the football is the here and now money. He was a number one overall, but I don't think he was guaranteed. Here's the thing that really blows up the convo against me, which I'm not going to argue too hard on Kyler. I don't know how good of a baseball player he was. Like, I'm not sure that he was necessarily, he went 9th overall, super talented. Would anybody have been surprised if he kind of figured it out? He was really great in that last year at OU. My big pushback to you was when you said that you were still citing the 300 mil after you made it a more global argument.
Okay.
And the reason on that is because most guys aren't going to make that. So if we are just talking, because you said kind of anybody, put the quarterbacks aside, because we cited a lot of quarterbacks, Henson, Murray, Tebow.
I'm speaking specifically to quarterbacks. If you are a first round quarterback who is a 2-sport athlete.
Okay, well, you said all. You said take it for anybody.
There aren't that many like defensive ends that play baseball. Usually it's the quarterbacks because they pitch.
True, but the most prominent players were like Brian Jordan, Deion Sanders playing both.
True.
And even Bo Jackson running back and then outfielders. So I think maybe recently we've seen more like Russell Wilson, another quarterback. Obviously, we don't know what his heights were.
Henson, Jameis Winston played baseball at a very high level.
Yep. And he was pretty good too. Maybe he should have played that because he wasn't.
He
very
probably
good at
should. He's
football.
not very good at football, but he made a lot of money playing football.
But exactly, and the money does matter. But the reason I say you can't cite the 300 mil is because not every quarterback is going to make that. Like that is still a high end make there. And is there no cutoff? Well, and then you cited another thing that when we were getting the technical stuff ironed out about how you wouldn't even let your kids play football, which I totally understand. And I'm not against that, especially at a young age. If they want to play later, we've seen tons of players start senior year in high school or even college and play when they're at least a little bit less risk for the brain damage that can occur when you're playing peewee. Is there a cutoff of a baseball? Like, is there a talent of baseball player versus football? We'll keep the quarterback scenario where you would say go the other way. Like what is the mix that would make you go the other way? Or are you always saying go football first?
I think quarterback makes it difficult. I think
because they just get overpaid so much.
They just get so much money. If you're a first round quarterback, so like if I'll bring up Kyler again.
I'm looking up someone like Christian Ponder, somebody who moved up to like the 9th, 12th pick out of nowhere. I just want to see
some
what
of these
he
guys are older too.
True.
Right? Like, what was the guy? I think he played for the Panthers, a 26-year-old rookie.
Chris Winkie.
Yeah, right? So, like, there's guys that are, it's a different story. But, like, if you're a normal rookie-age player in the NFL, 21, 22 years old,
not Winkie or Brandon Weeden.
Quarterback talent, there is a major difference between the amount of money that you're going to make on your first contract and the possibility that you get a second contract, because obviously not everybody is going to get that second contract. But looking at Kyler's first contract, $35.5 million, 100% of it guaranteed. Right.
Well, that's actually rare for football, though, that it's 100% guaranteed. Baseball is fully guaranteed. So if he did get to that first round
rookie scale contracts are that. Like, again, this is very specific to, are you a first round quarterback? And if you're a first round quarterback who is also a baseball player, pitcher, shortstop, center fielder, wasn't Kyler like an outfielder?
Yeah, he would have been. He would have been a premium,
and like
up
they weren't
the middle
pitchers.
type guy.
Yeah, like they're spine players usually. Henson was a third baseman.
And another fair point there, and again, to kind of argue against myself, is there's a development path. Like I almost think you were being aggressive on Kyler's development path for baseball. He was drafted in 18. So he could have finished the season in the minors if he wanted to in 2018. But let's just say he starts his career in 19 in the low minors, 20 in the mid minors, probably.
Do college guys typically start in low minors right now? I honestly don't know. I'm asking honestly.
It depends. Low minors, and this, I think he probably would have started in like high A though. I don't know if he would have started in like rookie or complex league type stuff. I think high A
would have been possibly double A if they're like a super.
If he could have gone right to double A, that does change things where he could have gone double A. And if he's great in 19, then we're talking triple A and possibly the majors in 20. That would be aggressive though, because as a hit, I don't know how good he was as a hitter. I know he had a great season at Oklahoma. I don't know what to do with those college numbers though. He had great plate skills too. He didn't walk, or he walked a bunch. So there's a good foundation there, but hitters take a long time to develop in baseball. And that's the biggest issue there that really makes it tough to decide that you would want to go baseball. And that's why I understood why he left there. But I think he's still an anomaly in that he was a number one, which again, he was a number one. So he was expected to be good. But do you disagree with the point that I said about him overperforming the level of expectation?
In football?
Yeah.
I mean, we can, since it's a baseball discussion, we can talk in terms of PECOTA. So like what type of PECOTA rating do you think his football career or path has taken for a number one overall pick?
I think it's been great. I thought he was
not
expected
a 10
to be
though. He's probably like a 7 or an 8.
So far, he's only 25 next year.
Yeah, but like that's what I'm saying. Like he hasn't exceeded expectations so much. Like if you look at like Football Reference and like where he rates versus the league, he's not like a 20% above average in all these different stats. He's like slightly above average in a lot of different stats. So like, I don't even think he's hit his, for fantasy wise, based on because of his running skills and everything.
Fantasy is different.
He's off like the charts, top, but like
whatever quarterback there.
He's a very good quarterback in the league, just on NFL IRL type stuff. So like, I don't even think he's hit a ceiling, where Josh Allen for 2 years was about average in terms of like every metric. And then last year he blew up
and then exploded. I wonder, do you think that?
I thought this year was going to be a blow up year for Kyler. Like that was my whole off-season content plan. They've been great as a team collectively. Yes. But like,
it's funny.
He's improved slightly across the board in terms of his efficiency numbers, but like not anywhere near the leap that Josh Allen has taken. But I do believe that he's going to get a contract extension, much like Josh Allen got. And so like bringing that contract back up again, $258 million 6-year contract with $150 million guaranteed and an out after 2026. So like he might not make $110 million, but like we were saying about baseball, from the time you get drafted to the time you hit the open market is typically between 8 and 12 years. Right?
Yeah, it's shortening a bit because players are getting called up earlier. And that's another thing about this negotiation that we're talking about with regards to the lockout. Will they find a level? Because right now, I think the owners, because they're scum bucket pieces of garbage, they're getting it on both ends now. Remember, it always used to be like, hey, we don't pay anything early because you get your big free agent deal. Well, now they're skimping out on free agent deals. So they're catching it at both ends. You don't get paid when you're a beast as a rookie because you're on the rookie deal. And now teams are getting smarter about free agency. So they have to come up with something to kind of figure out those mechanics there to where players are getting paid more fairly. Because I think they're still getting ripped off. But you look at somebody like Trout, and I'm not saying that he would be Trout. I'm using the top of the scale.
Best maybe ever. Yeah.
He was making 16 mil. But it still took 4 years.
And Trout signed a contract pre-arbitration. Am I right? Or was it his first? He signed that long-term deal allowing the Angels to buy him out of his first few years of free agency, giving of that hometown discount to the team where he was comfortable and had his life and was happy playing. And then you could argue that the long-term deal he signed, the second deal he signed, is also a bargain for the Angels, even though it's like the richest contract in MLB history.
Because he's so good.
Yeah, like that's also a bargain.
So he was drafted in 09 and didn't make over $1 million until 15.
That's 6 years before he made $1 million playing the sport that he is the best at, maybe of all time.
And I don't know what his bonus was, but he was drafted like 25th, so it wasn't that much.
Yeah, it wasn't that high. It was maybe $1 million,
okay.
maybe a few 100,000. I don't remember.
So we know in the short term that Kyler made the right decision. Anybody to do that, we knew that at the time too. No matter what he became, the money for being a number 1 overall versus being a major league draft pick is not there. Where does the scale tip though? Because in football, you can have a short career. What if he's Robert Griffin and he's done in a couple of years? Like Griffin was already kind of coming down. He came out flashy and looked great.
And blew his knee out.
I mean, he's still playing, obviously knocking around a bit, making a few bucks, but he's not anywhere close to what he was. In baseball, your earning power lasts longer.
That's true.
You don't know what you're going to become, but I'm wondering, this is more of a theoretical discussion though, of like, where's the cutoff of like anywhere in the first round? If you're a football player, you say go for that. Or if you're a late first rounder versus a premium top 10 baseball pick that is expected to be great. Is there a particular cutoff there where you say, you know what, average lifespan, average career in football is what, 2.5 years or something like that?
That's skewed, but yes, but also skewed.
And then in baseball, it's got to be at least a little bit longer, but I don't think it's even crazy long, to be quite honest.
No, because considering how many people burn out in the minors and never make
of course.
Now we're isolating it to people that just made the majors. So like in 8 seasons, okay, and RG3 came in 2012 when you didn't make as much.
No, wait. One thing in the chat. RJ3 is playing. He's terrible.
But he's still making $2 million this year. Or sorry, he made $2 million in 2020. He didn't play this year. He made $2 million in 2020.
You can make that as a pretty basic MLB player though too. I'm not swayed by that.
Once you get to free agency,
tangible
though,
way.
You got to play
No.
No.
You can get $2 million in arbitration as like a pretty decent player.
Okay, so 3 years you got to play to get to that.
Yeah, you can get that.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly. So again, the short-term money in football is definitely better.
8 years he played in the NFL, he made $33.5 million.
That's RG3's take home.
RG3.
Or not his take home, but what he made.
$33.5 million for his first 8 seasons directly out of college. If you're an MLB player, you do not get to negotiate a contract until usually 8 years out of college minimum.
Sure, but you are making arbitration. If you're a good player, you can beat that.
You can't beat 33.
Yeah, you can.
Some.
I mean, again, we're talking
not
top
a player of
here,
RG3's level who spent the last 5 years as a backup.
We're living in the higher level of player right now, and so I'm going to cite another high level player. Soto made 8.5 last year.
Okay,
and he's only been in the league for 5 minutes.
But he signed a long-term deal. Yes.
No.
How does he make 8.5 then?
Arbitration.
He's played 3 years?
He has.
How is he in arbitration?
18, 19, and 20. And then 21 last year, he made 8 mil.
That went by.
I'm telling you, the scale's been moved up. And that's another thing, that's another part of this combo here. And I
thought this was his third year in the majors. I did not think that he had already played for 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, because 20 counts as a year. I mean, it's not, it's 2 months, but it counts as a year as far as, so 18, 19, and 20 are his first 3 years. So he made 8.5 last year. Now
he made 15. 2022, he's going to make 15.
Yeah. Unless he signed his deal, that's his arbitration estimation. And again, we're talking very top of the scale. Kyler can make his money in NFL, walk away, try again. Yeah, but when does that ever... I don't think that's even worth this discussion here, because what is the likelihood that he would become a great player? Why is he walking away from football? If it's injury, well, then he's compromised for baseball.
To an extent.
I mean, it depends, right? But I disagree that he can do both at the highest level. No, he can't.
Some can, but they're very few and far between. Some can, but they're very few and far between.
But nobody's done one, stopped, and gone and done the other.
Right.
That I can think of.
Different skill sets.
I got to disagree with Chad on that.
You'd have to be a superstar. You'd have to be somebody who said, you know what, I can't play football anymore for XYZ reasons, but I have massive...
I already talked about Bo Jackson, and he wasn't that good at baseball. He
was
wasn't.
an all-star though. He was still an all-star.
He was. I mean, he had great power. He had great raw skills. His power, speed, athleticism. He struck out.
I don't want to
8 million
use
times.
the outliers to try and prove a point. I hate arguing from extremes.
Exactly. And so that's I want to avoid that. And that's why I think chat doesn't have to make this argument about him going to play baseball after football to strengthen the argument. Again, we're discussing more than arguing, because I don't even necessarily feel that the other side here has some great case, because I think he was right to take the money when he did too. Even when football was more of an unknown, we didn't know he'd become a good quarterback. You can find articles, there's split decision there on if Kyler's worth a number one,
because he was
or if he should have
short.
stayed. Because he's tiny, exactly. And
yeah,
we
so
have
like
this,
old school
this height bias.
Yeah,
that
like
still exists. In
articles
football.
write themselves in a lot of different sports. Right?
Well, and I mean, God, I hope we're past that.
Roy Oswalt could not have been a good major league pitcher too, because he was 5'10".
Thank you, Graham. Yeah, exactly. No,
Yeah.
Tim Hudson was never going to succeed because he was small. But again, we are talking outliers. There is data that says if you're a pitcher under 6 feet, toiling for 200 innings a year is difficult. There's some data out there on shorter quarterbacks. Plus, he had the racist bias against him too, which has at least deadened a bit of black quarterbacks.
Yes.
Listen. I don't throw out a race card on everything.
Thankfully,
but if you're
we're
young,
mostly past that.
Yeah, we're mostly. If you're young, you don't know the depths of just being a black quarterback used to be a big taboo. Thankfully, that is more broken. But the bottom line here is, I'm just wondering if there is a cutoff for you where we'd have to deal in hypotheticals, because we can't guarantee anything. But if I told you that so-and-so was going to become mediocre football player, but he's drafted first round. Versus a 10-year baseball career or 15-year, like what is the cutoff for you where you would say, you know what, the long game makes more sense?
If you're a quarterback, football makes more sense. If you're
no matter.
Yeah. If you're a first round quarterback, the opportunity for you to get that second contract in 4 years is greater than Jeff Samardzija, a Jeff Samardzija type, right? Who's going to be a wide receiver, where the first contracts are not that high on the rookie scale. Second contracts, way less high as well. So choosing baseball for that type of player, the longevity, you'll make it up. That makes a lot more sense. He's
the case the other way.
He's the 122 use case on the other side.
13-year career. Great call there. Bo was a badass. I love Bo. I'm not trying to shade Bo, but he wasn't a great baseball player. I wish we could have sprinkled health dust on him and gotten to see both. We deserve that as sports fans. So quarterback, no shot. If you're a first round quarterback,
football's the way you got to go.
Okay. Where does it start to change on what pick range do you start to move if you're a skill position player, wide receiver, running back, corner back, safety type? I guess those aren't called.
So all of these are under the assumption that it's a first round baseball talent.
First round on both sides. Yeah.
First round on both sides. Okay.
But where does the scale go in football? Like if you're 15th pick, do you start to go to baseball? If you're 20th pick, if you're 10th pick running back,
like if you're Lamar Jackson and you're the 25th pick or 29th pick or wherever he went, like football's still the right choice.
Okay.
You know? If you're a first round quarterback with the guaranteed contracts that first round quarterbacks get based on the salary scale,
because they get so much money.
Yeah, and if you become the starter, your next contract is going to be $25 to $30 million a year, 4 years out, and that doesn't exist unless you're Mike Trout.
Where is it with the other positions then? Put quarterback aside, because I agree they just get so much money.
The other positions, I think that it's more of a nuanced, weighted argument, because you're not getting quarterback money.
Yeah, so you can't guarantee anything.
Yeah, you can't guarantee anything. A lot of those, you're slapping your head up against other people's heads at 100 miles an hour, which is always a bad idea. So like if you're a cornerback, if you're a linebacker, if you're somebody who fits the mold of being both, if you're a wide receiver, especially if you're like a across the middle wide receiver and not like a Deshaun Jackson, I just run down the sideline as fast as I can.
You're getting beat up.
You're getting less concussions if you're Deshaun Jackson than if you're Wes Welker.
Sure. Absolutely.
Because you're catching the short routes where the linebackers live, as opposed to trying to get behind a safety and just running and dropping the ball before you cross the goal line like an idiot. So like it's a different skill set, you see.
For sure.
So if you're that type of guy, I think baseball makes more sense. Like if a slot wide receiver coming out of college is also a shortstop, right?
Go to baseball.
Then I think baseball's the right decision.
what could baseball do
from
to
a money
attract?
standpoint?
Yeah. What could baseball do to attract more of this talent?
I don't know. I mean, now we're getting into socioeconomic. Now we're getting
Sure, because
into
that
all
was a
these
big
sorts of things,
discussion
like
with
baseball in the
that
inner cities, and why is there declining rates of African American youth playing baseball? Why is there declining
because
rates of all youth playing baseball? Like
because
the
football and
average
basketball is
age
cheaper.
that kids stop playing baseball right now is 12 years old.
Yeah, because they
And
move over to football and basketball. Basketball, all you need is a ball, and you go play on a
yeah,
public rim.
it's much
Football, all the
easier.
equipment's already paid for. Baseball, you gotta have a certain amount of money. If you're
I
not
literally just went shopping with my kids for baseball equipment last weekend, like Friday. We went to Dick's Sporting Goods. Chat starts to chuckle. And we bought a new helmet. They already had a good bat, so you didn't have to buy them a bat. Bats are like $300. Like they're $100 to $300. They needed a new bag because they've gotten bigger and their equipment's getting bigger, so I need to buy them a new bag. They got batting gloves because, you know, that I get them something so they can feel good about themselves.
You want to be swagged out, yeah.
You know, it's like, go pick a batting glove. You can pick whichever one you want. I'm picking the shoes you get, you know, and then, you know, I'll pick the good helmets for you, and then we'll figure that out. But like, you get to pick your batting gloves. That's where you can stretch your personality on the field. You can strut that out on the field with your own personality with batting gloves. I spent $1,000 on shoes, bag, helmets, batting gloves, sliding pants, whatever they needed that they've grown out of from last season, because now they're 10 and 12. And I'll tell you this, based on that 12-year-old stat, Jacob wants to play in high school. And I think he has the talent to play in high school, right? I don't know if he's like, he may play 2 years of JV and then maybe as an 11th grader make varsity. But he's got power and he's got an arm talent. He can throw real hard. Throws like 55 miles an hour. He hasn't turned 10 yet.
No, baseball's expensive, Nick.
It's very expensive. David, my older son, who's 12, we had to have this discussion of like, should you play baseball this year? And my thing was, look, you're going to be a track athlete in high school. He was made all league as a cross country kid. The school already wants him to run track in the falls.
Nice.
Like, he's going to be one of our best milers. He's going to run the 400 because he's insane. He's going to do all, you know, like all these, like, he's really fast and he never gets tired. So like, he's going to do these multiple distance events. And I said, look, you've played baseball for the last 5-6 years now. And I coach you and I enjoy the time that we spend together on the field, all throughout January through July or whatever, June. And I said, you're now the older kid. Like, you're the second year Bronco. You're the older kid in the league. You actually are getting a lot better at the sport. Your swing looks a lot better. You're throwing the ball really hard, more accurately. You can field like a champ because you're quick and get to every ball. And like,
starting to come into his own a bit.
Because most kids do. 12 years old is where they start looking a little better on the field.
And Chad made a good point too about why that interest dies off, because the pitchers start throwing curveballs. It does get harder. It is
sucks.
that next level. 12 is that first talent change where you're like, this is actually kind of hard.
Because the boys hit puberty, they start getting bigger. Now they got hands that can grip the ball and they can get on top.
And you don't have a coach trying to get you to hit it by kind of
trying
laying
to place
it in there a bit for you.
The youth hitter swings a bat on one plane, and if the ball happens to come in on that plane, then they're going to make contact, and then they're going to get a hit because nobody can field. Like, that's youth baseball. So
you get a home run. This is a
long way of me saying David is going to be that statistic who quits playing baseball at 12.
Thank you.
He's not going to play 13 to 15-year-old, before he gets to high school. He's not going to be a high school baseball player because track is in the fall in California.
And
he's going to be a track star.
Future.
Yeah. He's going to run cross country in the spring. He might play soccer in the winter, or he'll just do winter running with the track team. And then he's going to run track in the fall. So this is his last year of baseball, fitting right into that statistic of 12 years old, you're done.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, track might be a little bit of an anomaly to take him away, but if it's not track, it's football, it's basketball. And you go back to the inner city question and the African-American participation in baseball and why it's drying, because they see that money. And you talked about, socioeconomic chance to get the family those millions in 3 years when you're a sophomore in high school, and you're seeing like,
you get them 1 year, you can get it out of high school.
Take all these branches. Yeah. I got the baseball branch here, I got the football branch here, I got the basketball branch here.
You have the
These two are just so
international
much more
basketball
appealing.
branch that people are attacking. Kids going to New Zealand
That's
and
a great
Australia,
call,
going to
too.
Europe now as well. There's the G League is trying to open up to pay kids coming out of high school since they're not allowing them into the NBA draft. There's a lot of routes to monetization of your athletic skills in other sports quicker, even though football requires you to go to college, to be graduated from high school for 3 years before you're eligible to be drafted by the NFL. Your graduating class from high school has to be 3 years out. So you can't just go high school to the NFL. But like you get paid day one. And baseball, you go to the minors and make Burger King money for
that's the big issue too, is and that pisses me off the most. It angers me the most about baseball, because it is my favorite sport, is how poorly they treat the minor leaguers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we've kind of gotten to where we're at here facing another lockout, is because the major leaguers, the players have constantly sold out the minor leaguers to further their own, which I get it's short-sighted, but I get it when you're in the negotiating room and you're battling, like, fine, take that away from them, just give us ours. But now it's coming to a head. And like I said, they've got it on both ends, where you don't make any money when you're young, and now they're taking away some of that free agent money. And I'm not talking about the top guys, so please don't put the big contracts in chat, y'all. We all know those. I'm talking about the mid-tier and lower, though. Those contracts are going lower in free agency. So if they really want to start attracting that talent, they need to figure out the minor league system to where they get money sooner. And I don't know if they care. I don't know if they care enough. That's the biggest issue. If the ownership really sees the long-term and the big picture of their sport, to understand that they need to start attracting more talent back to the game, and they have no plans in place to do that. And Kyler is not like part of like an epidemic of that. He's an anomaly because he was an elite player on baseball and football. But you need to get those players that are more on the fence, but financially it just doesn't make sense. If I'm a poor kid, white, black, whatever, but I'm poor and in the inner city, and I can make that extra money going basketball or football, you go basketball or football all the time. And I just wish baseball had ideas on how to get the talent back. The RBI program has been good. It's borne fruit. It's been a positive product, but it has not actually tangibly changed the African-American participation in baseball from the 9 to 10% that it's lived at now for several years. So I guess my question to you would be, do you have any ideas that you think baseball should employ to attract the talent or keep the talent, or where does it start? Does it start lower at the age you're talking about to keep them in at 12? Or is there a way to coax them back into it when they're in high school and they have these three options here? Because the best athletes could play basketball, football, baseball for sure. Like, we know it all at the time. Carl Crawford was one of those. I mean, there's countless. I don't know why I named somebody who's
Kenny
been out of the
Lofton.
league
There's a lot
10
of
years. But yeah, can baseball do anything to start winning those players back? Or is it just the finances just don't make sense for anybody that's not well off?
I think that it starts younger. I think that the league is starting to try and put these plans in place younger. I serve on the board for my kids' park league. We play in pony. They hate it if you say plays little league because it's a pony league, so it is what it is. But at our park community league,
right.
And I hate the fight between the two of us. No, we're pony. We're not little league. We're little league. We're not pony. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's kids playing baseball.
Exactly.
So like the Dodgers have this program where they'll come out and like help coaches or do clinics and this and that through like the Dodgers baseball organization, but you have to pay them.
That's the thing too. It's
like you want to create more fans, and you want to create this community, and you want to create this bond with your franchise and your players because it creates lifelong customers. Like, what is the average age of a baseball fan right now? 56 years old?
Yeah.
500. Yeah, roughly, give or take, right? So, and most kids stop playing at 12. Like, they know all these metrics. So like, how do you attract players? Do community reach outs. Be more visible in the community. Yes, we know you're celebrities. Yes, we know that you have either multiple millions of dollars or pathways to it. We understand how much money these guys make, but like, there has to be some more sort of community outreach to, quote, build the game at a younger age, to build this allegiance, I guess, from the from the kids, because the other sports, like I used to go to baseball games when I was younger in high school and stuff like, and we'd hang out by the gates, by the exits, and like get autographs and stuff like that. Like, that's the level of fan that I was when I was in high school, right? And we'd all like, we played baseball and we loved baseball and we watched pro baseball and we tried to get autographs, we collected cards, all those sorts of things. But like, you don't know, even there was Harvey did a video a few years ago where he went out in public and started interviewing people, asked him what he thought of, what do you think about Matt Harvey? Nobody knew what the hell he looked like.
Aaron Judge did one too.
Right? Like, how do you not know Aaron? He's 6'8".
He's massive.
If a 6'8" dude walks down the street, the first thing in mind is, who's that dude? Because he's 6'8". Matt Harvey is 6'5". Who's that dude? That's a big dude right there. The first thing that stands out is that they're massive humans.
Exactly.
But you don't know what baseball players look like out of uniform. You know what basketball players look like out of uniform because they're wearing underwear. Basically.
I was about to say, they're
wearing a tank top and shorts.
But baseball can't even lean on that because people know football players and they're covered. They're covered completely, and people know what many football players.
Most people don't know what most football players look like. If a football player walked in a room, most people would not know who it was. If you walked in a room with 100
I think the skill position players,
NFL,
they would.
You'd know like 10 of them. They'd know the quarterbacks.
They would know the skill position
5 wide receivers.
But they still do. It's still better than baseball.
Yeah,
their faces are completely uncovered.
Doesn't do anything to market the players because it's got this old school mentality that you're not important. The team is important. Respect the game. Don't celebrate ever. Don't be happy if you do a great thing.
Absolutely.
Don't
and
wear
I
necklaces. Don't have any sort of braids. You know, don't do anything that's fun ever.
And I mean, you hit on multiple points there that explain why baseball is where it's at and why the future isn't necessarily bright. It's $10 billion industry. And so it's not dying from that aspect. And that's why it's always laughable when people say it's dying, but they're shooting themselves. You know, they succeed in spite of themselves because they don't try to make the game better. They don't try to improve it at the major league level to where players are more known and more marketed, and they don't improve it at the minor league level, and they don't improve it pre-minor league when you're talking about keeping those kids in baseball. And that's probably the most frustrating part, is that there are all these resources. This is still a very popular sport overall. It has fallen to football, but it's still ahead of NBA, not in terms of youth interest, but overall interest. It's still the number 2 sport. And yet people say it's dying because it feels that way because of how stupid they are.
Well, it's not that it's dying. It's that the other ones are rising and have passed
exactly.
Partially because baseball's a chess game, and basketball and football are a more entertaining environment. Even though football has like 25 minutes,
boring as hell.
Football has 25 minutes of action that takes 3.5 hours, much like baseball. Which has 12 minutes of action that takes 3 to 3.5 hours. The difference is in between every play, there's cheerleaders, there's stuff on the scoreboard, there's
honestly
chants,
it's just the replays. The replays alone for a television watching experience save football, because I find watching a single game awfully boring, and I laugh at football fans who are like, baseball is boring. I'm like, so is your sport. Chill out.
Football is just more entertaining between the plays.
It's just that they've figured out ways to cover that by showing 10 different replays so people stay engaged. In baseball, there's so much dead time, and it's all about pace. You can have an exciting 3.5 hour game if the ball's in play, but the 3 true outcomes, now we're getting into like systemic issues of the game on the field and how that pace has drawn to a crawl with the 3 true outcomes and made it a worse product. And I don't know the way out here. Like they stay stagnant and they continue to cede ground to the NBA to where they're going to fall to number 3. I don't think they'll ever fall to 4, but they'll jump down to where the NHL is if they have a lockout this year that impacts games. I guarantee.
Hockey's a more fun sport to watch.
Oh, hockey's
from a TV watching
best of the 4 sports live too.
Right?
It's the best of the 4 sports live. I will stand on that.
Basketball live is really fun.
It is.
NBA live is NBA and college games when you're in the crowd is fun. High school games are fun to watch. Now you're getting into crowd, like high school baseball games. Nobody's in the goddamn crowd. Nobody's watching high school baseball games in the crowd. But kind of to wrap this all, it's like one of the things that I say, like I coach both my kids' teams. It's like I have a couple of rules for my teams.
Are you crazy coach dad?
I'm a coach dad. I'm not crazy. I'm the fun coach dad.
I'm just teasing you anyway. I wouldn't expect you to be out there wilding out.
It's not hard to get into that.
I'm sure you deal with them more than you are one.
It's a mess. So,
sorry, didn't mean to derail.
Everybody has like a couple of rules, and most dads, Park and Rec or Pony or Little League have like one of their rules is have fun. That's not one of my rules. I was like, you don't want them to have fun?
You're
gonna, because it's baseball and baseball's fun.
It should be
So like, I'm
inherently
not
fun,
going
is
to
what you're
mandate that
saying.
you have fun. You're going to have fun because playing baseball is fun.
Yeah.
It's that easy. So it's like, I'm like, okay, what do you guys think my rules are? And like, have fun. I'm like, no, have fun's not a rules to me. I was like, you're here
it should
and you're
be
playing with
ingrained.
other kids and it's fun because playing baseball is fun. So you're going to have fun. So I don't have to tell you to have fun. You're going to have fun.
I see what you're saying. If you have to mandate the fun, you're already in a bad spot.
Yeah.
Like, why would we have to mandate?
Fun.
Yeah.
If I have to tell you to have fun, it means it's probably not freaking fun.
Yeah, if you have to be told that you're having fun, you're not having a great time. I
Yeah.
totally get it. Anyway, I've taken this conversation a lot of different routes, but I love talking with you, and I appreciate you bringing me on, because I think this is a fun convo. But football or baseball keeps losing these types of players. And again, Kyler's at the far outlier edge here. Talking about him is fun, but it's not. It doesn't really get to the systemic issues.
He's not
that
everyone.
baseball is exactly. There's so many more guys in the middle there that are worth discussing. That baseball is losing to basketball and football, though. And until they start to get some of that share back, they are going to have trouble, and they are going to remain a super white sport. They're also, there's obviously a big Latin influence too, and obviously there's no issue with that, but they need to prevent themselves from becoming just an all white, all rich sport, because it's not even so much that it's all about being able to afford it at a young age. And I think Chat was being surprised to learn about the money that you were paying for your kids and how expensive baseball is.
I didn't even buy new bats.
Yeah, and if you got in a bat, that's another $3
Yeah.
So it's not a cheap sport. And yeah, you got some leagues where stuff is given to you and everything, but not necessarily a glove or cleats. And if they are, it's not very good. And so baseball, honestly, we talk about how they need to market their players at the top level. It needs to start at the very bottom and work their way up. Like
they have to, but Major League Baseball is the entity that needs to invest in that, and not cosmetically. Not like the Dodgers put up like a scoreboard at the park, like a Dodgers dream field at the park near our house. It's like, you gotta actually get your hands dirty, guys.
They're not wood, Governor. They're composite bats.
Yeah, like aluminum bats. They're just expensive. So like,
yeah, I agree.
They've got to invest time, and it's like
the kids zone is not what you need at the stadium. That's a little walled off area. It needs to start at the very bottom and I know like there's some teams that do fund RBI programs, but it needs to be widespread across the country. There's $10 billion in the industry. More of it needs to be going back into the development of the sport when it starts with kids, but also the minor leaguers, because that's another reason that Kyler would never have wanted to choose baseball there, because of the grind that it takes to even get the money that we're talking about here. But that also deters a lot of other players who might not be as good as Kyler, but they might think they are. And so they don't want to go to baseball either and grind out the bus rides and the awfulness. So they have to figure out a way to make that more appealing, or else they're just going to continue to lose talent to these two sports.
Of course. I mean, look, you play MLB The Show for at least half the year. And when I play MLB The Show, I don't play Diamond Dynasty like you do. I'd like to play Diamond Dynasty, but I'm not good enough. I'm too old. So I play.
That's how I feel about Madden.
The Be a Pro, right? I play the the Road to the Show. And I agree with you. It sucks being in the minor leagues. I'm like, they didn't freaking call me up.
Even in a video game.
I won the freaking Triple Crown in AAA. Call me up to the majors already. This sucks. I don't want to ride the bus anymore.
Yeah,
like,
even in a video game,
it sucks. Stinks. Even in a video game.
So imagine it in real life. And listen, I'm not saying they have to get rid of the minors. I know somebody said shrink the minors. I don't know that that's necessarily. I'm actually against them getting rid of minor league teams, but just pay them better. It's not that hard. Somebody ran the numbers, and I wish I had them, because when I cite this and I don't have the hard numbers, it weakens the argument. I understand. It was on a podcast years ago, but they ran the numbers of what it would cost to fund like just feeding your players well in the minors. Just not top of the line.
Have a training table. Yeah.
Yes. That isn't peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And the number was so small. It was like $700,000, which that number is a lot, sure, but for an organization,
not to an organization that's
for a sports organization, it's nothing. It is a rounding error to have better food across your minor league system. I think it was about 700,000, whatever it was. Even if it's $1 million, even if it's $2 million, that would be worth it. And yet they got these kids, and you wonder why some players go down and they get fat and they get off their physicality goes the wrong way, because they're eating McDonald's every night in Podunk, Mississippi or whatever. Anyway, I don't want to derail a whole nother combo, but I had a great time talking with you. I love discussing stuff like this, Al. Thank you for an amazing stream. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, man. Catch you later. Bye.
He's a legend.